What's up, everybody? I am back here for another video, and today we are going to talk about one of the best times of year. It is the College Baseball College World Series National Championship Series between the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Oklahoma Sooners. There's so much to talk about this matchup. Some big games coming up, and we're going to have a champion crowned over the next couple of days. I can't wait to talk more about this upcoming matchup. Now, I'll start by talking a little bit about North Carolina. Now, coming into the season, obviously, they're one of the juggernauts of the sport, and they were definitely expected to go pretty far. They had a really good regular season. They dominated the ACC. They had a big series win over Virginia Tech, who was number two at the time, and they kind of bounced to that number two spot, and they held it pretty much throughout the year. I believe they lost the ACC championship and then went down all the way to a five seed, which or like the fifth overall seed in the tournament, which personally I thought was a little bit low. I thought they deserved more of like a three or a four spot, depending on kind of how you value Georgia versus North Carolina. But I definitely didn't think Auburn deserved to be above them. So a team that was pretty disrespected despite having a really good regular season. And yeah, they went into the tournament, went into the regional, got out of it very easily. Just a really tough team. And then in the Super Regional, they ended up hosting USC, a really solid team, and they went down. They lost the first game. They ended up kind of fighting back and barely winning the last one. I want to say it was 3-2 in the final game, or at least very close game. North Carolina books their trip to the College World Series despite kind of having all the odds against them, being underseeded, all being down 1-0 in the Super Regional game. They book themselves a trip to Omaha and they absolutely dominate. They get put with West Virginia, Troy, and who's the other team? I'm blanking, but they end up doing really well. They ended up taking down every single team in front of them. They beat West Virginia twice? Didn't lose a single game, and yeah, all the way into the championship. Pretty much no complaints. They've had such a good year. They've been really consistent at times. They've lost some tough games, but they've always bounced back. And yeah, this team is absolutely phenomenal. Definitely deserving to be in this national championship game. And I can't wait to see him watch. I can't wait to watch him over these next couple of days. The last team I was thinking of was Ole Miss. But anyway, on to the Oklahoma Sooners. One of the craziest stories I think I've ever seen, but kind of what makes college baseball great because it feels like it happens a decent amount. Maybe not to this extent, but Oklahoma, obviously an SEC school, typically a good baseball school. They had some expectations this year, but not really towards the top of the conference. So the regular season kind of made sense. They didn't do very good. I believe they were under 500 in the SEC. I think they finished like 13th in the SEC overall or something insane. And yeah, it's crazy the fact that they're this far. Personally, I had them like right on the bubble to even make the tournament because they were like right there. And I just can't believe how good they've been. They ended up, dominating Virginia Tech, which was crazy, completely unexpected. Then they went to Auburn, took them down twice in the Super Regional, and then they got through, I thought by far the tougher side in the College World Series with Georgia, Texas, and Alabama. They were able to do really well there. And all of a sudden, the SEC strikes again, a team that was very far away from, being kind of you know, really in any sort of national championship contention, conference contention, a team that I thought had no chance to even get out of the regional, a team that I thought barely should have been in even the tournament in the first place, is now somehow in the national championship. And I mean, what an amazing story it is. And the reality is when there's a Cinderella team, going this far, you expect them to lose, but they've just been so good that it's kind of hard to pick against them. Like North Carolina, obviously a really good team, but Oklahoma, they have kind of a magic, a spark to them that North Carolina doesn't really have at times. And even though I would say North Carolina is, definitely the favorite based on their talent, based on how their season's gone, Oklahoma has some sort of spark that many people, there's a reason that a lot of people are picking them to win the series. It's so crazy how different these teams are. North Carolina just 12 losses in the entire year. Oklahoma a whole 22 different losses. But it's crazy how things have kind of flipped come tournament time. Oklahoma's won 8 in a row. North Carolina, of course, they've been dominant as well, but kind of in a different fashion. They've lost games here and there. So yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, we're looking at two so different teams. A team, obviously two very talented teams, but one that's just had such a good year and one that's just super, super hot at the right time. So the question is kind of just which one do you value more? Now I'm going to talk about a few X factors in this game. For Oklahoma, of course, it's Dayton LaChance. He's so good when it comes to just hitting the ball. Good power hitter, gets solid contact as well, and he's been one of the driving forces in this championship run. And then, on the pitching side, I would classify Oklahoma as kind of a pitching team over these last couple weeks, especially what they've been able to do in Omaha, less kind of throughout the year. But yeah, their pitching's been amazing, and it hasn't really been just one or two guys that are doing it. It's just a whole committee that's just doing really, really well on the mound. And yeah, I think the key, obviously LaChance, but I think the main key for Oklahoma is just can the consistency of their pitchers just continue to step up at the right time? And the reason I don't think it's too likely, even though they've done it, is it's so hard to rely on six guys rather than one. If you have, obviously the starting pitchers, the bullpen, the closers, all these guys, like you're gonna have to rely on so many different ones, and they 100% have been able to. But the question is, are they going to be able to do it once again? And it's kind of hard to say whether that's going to happen or not. On North Carolina's side, I think it's the pitchers that is going to be their X factor as well. They have Glauber, they have DeCaro, they have McDuffie, so many good pitchers, and I think it's kind of similar to Oklahoma, where it's just so many different guys that they're going to have to rely on. But I do think kind of the top end that North Carolina has when it comes to pitching the ball is just a little bit better than Oklahoma's. So I definitely think they get the edge in that regard. Obviously they have good hitters, Owen Hall, all these guys, but I think it's going to be their pitching as well. And I think overall, between these two teams, it's going to be pitching versus pitching, consistency versus consistency, depth versus depth, rather than just who can hit the most home runs, who can hit, get the most hits. It's just going to be, who can throw the most strikes, who can stay consistent inning 1 through 9. And yeah, this is going to be a very interesting series. I think it's going to go 3 games. I don't think it's going to be, 2 games and that's it. I think it's going to be pretty competitive, but I think I'm going to lean with the North Carolina Tar Heels to win the national championship. They've proven a little bit more throughout the season. While Oklahoma is a little bit hotter in the offseason, I'll give it to them. I think North Carolina isn't a lot less that it makes up for the fact that Oklahoma had such a bad regular season, if that makes sense. And just the overall talent for talent, I think North Carolina has a lot more talent. I think their pitching, depth is better. I think their pitching, top tier talent is better. And yeah, I think they just overall have the better squad. The hitters I think are better as well. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a relatively low scoring series. I'm not, I don't think it's gonna be 9-8s, 8-7s, all this stuff. But I think I'm looking at, a 5-4, a 3-1, a 6-2 maybe. But I don't think it's gonna be super high scoring. I think it's just gonna be, like I mentioned before, consistency of their pitchers. Obviously, there's a couple X factors on both squads, but I think it's going to be more about who can just, throw the most strikes, who can get the most guys out, and who can stop the stars. Because, I think that the stars are, what makes, the hitters, whereas it's more kind of depth when it comes to pitchers. So who can stop kind of their stars when at the plate, and then, yeah, who can throw the most strikes. So yeah, man, I'm going with the North Carolina Tar Heels. It's gonna be a great series. Can't wait to watch some of these guys play. So many good players, so many good pitchers, good coaches, great fans. Gonna be really fun. And yeah, can't wait to watch this series over the next few days. And I'm gonna have reaction videos out for you guys as well. So stay tuned to the channel for more.